Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. Welcome back to generational farming and what we've got going on today. Second day of spring. Honestly, I popped on and didn't check my grass yet to see what state it's in because there's some contracts available, and when that happens, that tends to be my priority to try to just make a little extra cash. Fertilizer contracts, as we've talked about, not the most lucrative in the world, but that's all that's available right now. So I'm going to be working that until I'm not, I suppose. Got this semi-large field over here, field 36, which is right across the way from my farm. That's my farm over there. Actually, more over there. You can see the silos in the distance. I've spent a lot of time because there's just been not a lot to do after emptying out the silage very quickly to be able to reposition the silos after I realized I had not positioned them in a way that was allowable by FSN. That meant the winter months, several of them were a little less, well, they were completely not busy, so I had more time on my hands, where normally I would spread out that silage sale a little bit and probably do 20 loads one day, 20 loads another day, because it just gets pretty dull. It's about a 5 to 6 minute round trip for every load, and so with 20 loads, potentially talking 2 hours of just driving back and forth. So it gets a little monotonous. For mental sanity, I tend to split it up a little bit, but didn't really have that choice because the warden wanted to move the silo, which I completely understand. You know, it's not their fault that I did what I did. Just like anything in real life, I've got the consequences, and that consequence was that I probably had to move 40 loads at once instead of spreading it out. But that meant I had more time to sit and ruminate about what comes next. And when I mean what comes next, I'm always at this point kind of really thinking more about Generation 2. And obviously there's going to be a lot of unknowns, like we have no idea what kind of map, what kind of map, what size of map. You know, I think I'm pretty set. I know I'll be doing grass wherever it is, and I'll just have to find an appropriate field based on that to start with, and then go from there. But it's been more trying to figure out, would I do something different with equipment? Because to some degree, I know I used really the smallest equipment I could here, and while go big or go home is, again, I in my feeling, a losing strategy here. I'm going to go down to the bottom end of the field to again get the largest percent of field that I can. So I usually, on a field like this, will go up, go a little bit past where the field starts coming in and I'm wasting fertilizer, and then I can clearly come back down here again and get a full width for quite a while. So that's likely what you'll see me do here. So just want to focus on getting everything turned on, so just pausing a little bit so I can focus directly on what I'm doing. Yeah, go big or go home is a losing strategy because you just can't recover the equipment costs. So while I could certainly buy, you know, one of the self-propelled mowers for $200,000 or $300,000 that swaths as it goes, and then the largest forage wagon to pick it up, and so forth, that would cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, versus, as we talked about when I went this route in year 2 and was thinking about doing it earlier than that, meaning I didn't actually physically do it earlier than that, but the thinking about it was happening earlier than that. So in year 1, before I had even harvested my crop. Alright, hold on, I've got a steering problem, because when I keep the wheel straight, I'm turning. I think I've got it fixed. But yeah, when you're going down the road on cruise control and you think you've got the wheels straight and suddenly the thing is drifting to the left all the time, it's more likely that I'm going to end up off the bridge in the river here than that I'm going to do something correctly. So the thought was, because I had done the smallest equipment, is there something larger that I could do? I wasn't really set on double the size, whatever. It was like, is there a path that makes sense? And I think I've got a couple pieces of equipment I could do, and when we get to Gen 2, I'll certainly likely do that. That may require a different tractor. It honestly may not. Now that was strange because I had bought, well, maybe it was 153 and then 1,000. I don't know, because I'm like, I had bought 6,000 liters of fertilizer knowing that this was a big field, and more importantly, there's a few other contracts out there that if I'm the one that's remaining on here, I'll certainly work through them. And then I knew I would need more than the max. Although I'm wondering, I think you can buy 8 actually, so I suppose I could have done that. Because as you can see now, I'll be able to grab another 2-3 bags once again once I'm done here. Never hurts, I can always just purchase more. And so at this point, the amount I'm going to get on this contract is going to just get me right back to where I was with the fertilizer. So I spent over almost 11,000 on fertilizer, and I'm getting that from the contract. So this is in essence a break even based on supply, but I'm also not going to use all this fertilizer. So, and I also had some to begin with, but as I said, it was more kind of forward thinking that I don't have to sit there and worry about buying, because I think I started to get to the point where, no, I guess I wasn't quite there yet. I thought I was coming off the field already, and I'm like, maybe I just go all the way down. Although, you know what, I'm going to do that anyway, because I think I'm going to need both pieces, and this way I get this, which is longer than what I'm going to have on the other one before I get to the top of the field. Alright. Well, I say that, and now I didn't realize how close to the edge I was going to be here. Alright, so we're at 93%. 95. Just got to 96. And so this again is probably about where I'd stop, and then I'll see if I can, with the full amount, do a little bit better. I'm probably going to start the wiggling, so let me slow this down so it doesn't do that. If you've ever approached the GPS on cruise control, yeah, it does this ping pong method, which is terrific. Alright, 97. Alright, and usually at this point what I'll start doing, well, there you go. I usually go back and just look at it ahead of time. So I'm going to collect this, and then I'm going to grab this one, which is literally across the street. So that was a little bit of the thinking ahead if that opportunity came up. I think these fields line up on the edges. Well, they do, but as you can see, that one goes in. So I'm going to start with these so that I get full runs of the field first, and then I'll worry about the ones again that taper in that are going to be where I finish up. But I may only get these 2 passes up and down the middle here, because then I think the others, well, there might be a third. It's going to be really close, I think, going to the left here on the mini-map, and, well, even on the screen with the direction I'm heading. No, I was right. Like I said, it's just amazing how wide this is, which is why I do enjoy this base game spreader, because for just getting it done and getting it knocked out, there's really nothing that can beat it. That's one of the things I'm looking at is, obviously I've had to rent a lime spreader. You know, I've certainly determined now in the pacing, and that's really what I've been trying to do at this point on the farm, is just try to get the unanswered questions I have, or the things that are a little gray, to try to get actual data and points that I can be like, nope, this is how this behaves, so that I can use that knowledge a lot more clearly as I go into the following generations. So one of those things was, how often do I need to lime the field with precision farming and grass? Because I've never done grass work that way. Alright, now let me shrink this down, because once again, this is where I'm now kind of wasting space. Now this is going to be the worst case scenario, potentially, although I'm thinking I'll be okay. So I'm going to get myself back to the full size, and we're going to start down here, because what can happen when I do that is suddenly I need to come back to some tiny little area that I worked out that then takes more time and fertilizer, more importantly, than I really need. So at this point, now what I normally do then is I head over here, and then you can kind of watch it go up. You can see through, you know, where it's at. And then when it hits the 100%, it's a little bit earlier than when it would, there you go. Rather than waiting for the contract finish to pop up, if you're on the screen, you can be a little more effective. Alright, so I started with about 2,800 on this one, on this field, and ended with 1,600, so I used about 1,200. The other field here, I think, is slightly larger, just judging by the fact that the payment, I think, is a little bit higher. Oh, I don't know why I went this way, because I need to get across the river, and I can do that on this road over here. But what I'm getting at is I should be able to do just fine. But you know what? I think I'm going to grab that last bag of 1,000 liters there, because once again, if I can just clear the slate and grab the last one, that's on field 8, which is also up north there, and I don't think I'm going to have enough to do both. I might, but even if I do, it won't hurt, because then I won't have to come back to the store and pick it up later. And so at this point, you know, the benefit here is, as I said, in the first job, I had basically was just going to pay for all the fertilizer by doing the first job. But now what it may line up to be is I could be very close to getting these other 3 jobs done with the fertilizer I have. So those are basically then going to be the full amount that I'm getting paid as quote-unquote profit, because I hadn't had to buy any more fertilizer. Now, obviously, again, if you were an accountant and you were tracking this accurately, you would obviously include the consumption of the fertilizer on the field against the cost, which is certainly what I've done in calculating that most fertilizer contracts get you $2,000 or so in profit in the best case. You know, but once again, there's the few large fields like that, like 36 that I got, that do start to get into the $3,000 or $4,000 range. You know, but that's an $11,000 contract. You're still putting in $7,000 or $8,000 of fertilizer into the ground to get it done. It's definitely well below a 50% margin. I am not quite sure why this is having this much difficulty up this hill. I get that it's nearly full of fertilizer. This usually isn't that much of a struggle. Finally up here on the road, able to get moving along. So another peripheral thing that is really not specifically generational farming, but certainly has an impact here. You know, and it's I guess a couple points. So there's definitely going to be no episodes coming up shortly. In a few days, I'm going to be heading out of town on a business trip, be gone for the entire work week, and so obviously there will be no generational farming work happening then. And since these videos kind of come up semi-real time, I usually do work in the morning, since that's usually my biggest window, or I then know, hey, I'm going to be repeating this type of work all day. So what I've started to do is just do things in the morning, get the video edited and published sometime during the same day. You're going to have 5, 6, maybe even 7 days where you're not going to see anything with generational farming, just because I am not here doing anything. So that was the last episode that I shared with you about why this is going to be a poor year for the farm, is I just will have less time to be here. So, you know, a big part of the determination is once I get all this work done, once I go look at my grass field, can I work it today, or am I going to have to wait for tomorrow, or God forbid, am I going to have to wait till June to collect grass the first time? because that will determine if I get 1 or 2 harvests off the field. I think it's physically impossible now for me to get 3 before I leave, and then at that point, by the time I return, I'll be outside the point. I might be able to mow grass in the winter to get off whatever had grown in the time I was unable to be on. That's likely to be the best. So in either case, I'm likely missing 1 to 2 harvests would be the best case scenario. You know, in a really bad situation, I might miss 3, but I don't think that it'll be that bad. More importantly, I'm going to miss the harvest season this year, so I'm going to miss out on any harvest contracts. And obviously then that means there'll be no content with me working some fields just to show you where I'm at and, you know, give you something to look at. But related to that then, as far as time to work and what you can expect to see, is I have made the decision on my other farm at this point to pause any kind of publication. I'm going to go back to the other end of the field here again, same logic, get the largest amount first so that I'm not throwing fertilizer into the air, into areas that don't count for completion. I'm going to put pause on episodes because it's gotten to the point I'm waiting for a field to come available, a specific field that I'd like to bid on, to then become my crop field, which then will let the farm be fully operational to some degree, because there's a couple little plots that I want to be able to set up a yard. But I can operate without the yard. I just won't really have any nice place to put my buildings. So I've got that completed. So 3861 there. And then last one, except this one for field 8. Yeah, I'm always nervous because I'm almost making the opposite mistake in that I'm almost hitting borrow items, where for this I don't need to, but in the past I've made a couple errors where I've hit accept contract and been for something like cultivating or harvesting, where I clearly don't own the equipment for that. So that has been disappointing and unfortunate, because then I hope for it to come up again, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, the FM here has done a really good job of maximizing their field. Last time they just had a little piece, but it looks like this winter they went ahead and felled the rest of the trees and really took the maximum ground they have available. And I'm assuming those are sugar beets in the ground, because this is the FM who has decided grass may make cash, but it also makes them insane, so they've decided they're going to do something different. And sugar beets is what they've settled on as an alternative that they feel is something they want to do. So they've got a couple fields, this one and 12, that they've been doing that on. But 12 was already, I think, pretty maxed out the way it came on the base map. So 17 had a lot of space up on the north end. Actually, no, 12 they did expand too. So, I correct my, but no, 12 was the different. So they have 2, I'm sorry, they have 2 and 17. So I'm heading over, I'm trying to figure out the best way to get to 8. I'm looking at my mini-map blinkage there, but yeah, I think it's behind, I think it's that little field behind Les Jardins. So, yep, it is, because 7 is the baling field. But yeah, 12 and 16 is what the other FM has, but they're doing grass like most of us are doing, so. And again, that FM that's doing the beets did initially try, but like I said, for their own sanity, they determined it was not something that they really wanted to even consider doing. So this field is just a hot mess one way or the other. There's pretty much not a way to get a lot of coverage, so, and at this point it's going to be 100 liters or something that's going to fall out. So, trying to think, because it would have been 2639, so yeah, if I didn't have it, basically if I'd have to finish with 1,000 liters to say, hey, I could have done this without picking up another bag, but at this point, I'm not seeing that as something that's likely to happen. But who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised. But we're at 68%. I assume we're going to jump up pretty fast here. Alright, well, I think I'm just going to wait. Let's see. Where am I at? 96. Hello. Tried to be funny and save myself a bit, but... Alright. It did finish. I was a little worried. I'm like, hold on. Alright, so... nothing else. I've taken care of the work the farmers wanted for us today. Well, right now. Usually contracts come up multiple times a day. Again, I don't know how much I'm going to really be able to take a look and see, so this may be all I'm going to be able to get my hands on today. But still not bad overall. I started at 463, so after 4 contracts, I've made 10,000. So that kind of gives you, again, the example. 4 contracts at 3,000 profit would have given me 12. I don't have that. 4 contracts at 2 would have given me 8. I have more than that, so I'm basically at 2,500. But that's really because of the large contract on 36. Like this one here, I probably maybe would have made almost nothing, because I think it was 1,200, and I'm pretty sure I used darn near 1,000 liters on that field, but maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. So I'm going to head back to the farm now. So here on the farm, just hopping out of my tractor, so you can see growth stage 2 of 3. So as I figured, it would either be today or tomorrow, and clearly it is tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead, pop the fertilizer, well, I'm going to pop myself back in here. There's a possibility more fertilizing contracts will come up. So I'll leave everything connected at this point because I can't mow. And if anything comes up, it's going to be a cultivating contract, which I have to borrow items for because I don't have a tractor that'll really do anything, and I don't have a cultivator, so I'd be renting something one way or the other. And for certain contracts, especially for harvest contracts, I found they give you a pretty nice deal on the borrowing of items from the farmer, which would make sense because the farmer's just looking to recoup probably the maintenance costs of the equipment. They're not looking to make a profit on you using their equipment, where obviously if you lease from the shop, they're looking for that as well, covering the maintenance costs, but obviously they'd like to make some money in the process as well. But that means I'm not going to get any grass harvest off this field until tomorrow, and then we're kind of entering into the dead zone where I would prefer not to sell silage. But again, with my 2 silos, I have plenty of capacity for whatever gets off the field. I'm just curious to see, with the changes I've had to make, what kind of impact we're going to have. And some of it is going to determine like how OCD I'm going to be about getting every last blade of grass around these silos. Because, I mean, I could go here, I could then grab that little piece here, you know, and this little end here in the course of doing things, but we'll see. I've also got a different idea for how I'm going to deal with these edges, because I think that might actually just make it quicker around both ends of the field. I know Locked decided to cut down all his trees. I just don't want to I don't even think it's worth that work to go ahead and do that. You know, he has a trailer, he could go sell the logs and so forth and make a little bit of money off that, but I'm not even sure. I mean, some of these trees could be worth a lot, but you never know. So in any event, I'm just kind of talking a lot because I've got a few little ideas bouncing around, but since they haven't coalesced into anything solid, I'm going to stop with the random babbling, and I'm going to basically let you know if I do anything again. It's going to be some contracts that come up through the rest of the day, but that's the plan right now. Obviously I can't do anything on the farm We should have this harvest and the next one before I need to worry about liming the field again. That is what I know right now, and I'll see you next time.